Have you ever considered that the people you rely on most to take care of you in old age, your children, your spouse, might actually be the reason you lose your happiness? Sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But this isn't just a hypothetical scenario. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the expectations you placed on your children have only made them feel burdened, while leaving you disappointed. Can you believe that relying too much on your kids could rob you of your freedom, your joy, and even your self-worth? In today's video, we're diving into the story of a mother who sacrificed everything for her family, only to shock everyone by choosing not to live with her children in old age. Her decision is as surprising as it is powerful, revealing an unexpected truth about finding happiness in later life. Are you ready to challenge what you thought you knew? Don't miss this. Imo's story begins in a way that many of us can relate to, a life dedicated to her family. After losing her husband in a sudden accident, she was left alone to raise 2 young daughters. With no time to grieve, she threw herself into survival mode, determined to give her children the life they deserved. For 34 years, she ran a small diner in Tokyo, a modest roadside restaurant that became her second home. Every morning, she would wake up before dawn, preparing rice and miso soup, her hands calloused from years of chopping vegetables and scrubbing pots. Every yen she earned went toward her daughter's education and future. She poured her soul into her work, but behind her quiet determination was a woman who had forgotten how to dream for herself. Life became a series of sacrifices, birthdays missed, health neglected, dreams postponed indefinitely. Imo often told herself, "One day, I'll have time for myself. Just not now." That day, however, never seemed to come. When her daughters grew up, married, and moved out, they often spoke with pride about their mother's resilience. "Mom gave us everything," her eldest daughter, Haruka, once said. And that was true. Imo didn't just provide for her children, she gave them the best of herself. So, when her daughters came to her years later, offering her a chance to live with them and enjoy the fruits of her labor, they expected her to accept immediately. After all, wasn't that every parent's dream? To grow old surrounded by family, supported by the very people they sacrificed for. But Imo did something no one expected. She said no. At first, her daughters thought it was a misunderstanding. Surely their mother, who had worked tirelessly her entire life, deserved to rest and let others care for her. But Imo's response was firm, "I've spent my whole life living for others. Now, I want to live for myself." Her daughters were stunned. They couldn't understand. Was she unhappy with them? Did she feel unappreciated? But for Imo, it wasn't about rejecting their love, it was about rediscovering her own. She explained, "Happiness doesn't come from depending on others. It comes from finding freedom within yourself." Imo's journey toward independence didn't happen overnight. Closing her diner was the first step, but it left her with a question that many of us face as we grow older: now what? For years, her life had revolved around others, customers, family, responsibilities. Suddenly, she had time, but no idea how to fill it. She started small. Her first act of rebellion against the routine of her old life was to take a daily walk. It seemed insignificant at first, but for Imo, it was a revelation. Those quiet moments in the park allowed her to reflect on her life and what she wanted moving forward. Each step felt like a small declaration of freedom. One day, during one of her walks, she met an elderly woman who invited her to join a yoga class. At first, Imo was hesitant. She wasn't flexible, and the idea of trying something new at her age felt daunting. But she decided to give it a try. To her surprise, yoga became a turning point. It wasn't just about stretching or breathing exercises, it was about reconnecting with her body, which she had neglected for so long. Through yoga, Imo regained her strength, her health, and even her confidence. As her physical health improved, so did her emotional well-being. Imo began to seek out new experiences, pushing herself out of her comfort zone. She joined a volunteer group that planted flowers in a local park. At first, she thought it would just be a way to pass the time. But it quickly became so much more. She formed friendships with people of all ages, an 8-year-old boy who reminded her of her grandson, a retired school teacher who shared stories about her travels, and even a young mother who was struggling to find her footing. These connections gave her a renewed sense of purpose. But the biggest surprise came when Imo decided to revisit an old dream, playing the piano. As a child, she had always wanted to learn, but life had gotten in the way. Now, at 68, she finally had the time. She enrolled in a beginner's class, and though her fingers were stiff and uncoordinated at first, she persevered. Each note she played felt like a triumph. 6 months later, she performed a simple song at a recital, her daughters watching proudly from the audience. For the first time in years, they saw their mother not as a caregiver or a provider, but as a woman rediscovering herself. Through these small but meaningful steps, Imo transformed her life. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. And in doing so, she taught her daughters an unexpected lesson, that love doesn't always mean staying close or being dependent. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give your family is showing them how to live independently and with purpose. Imo's story challenges us all to rethink what aging can look like. It's not about waiting for others to bring you happiness, it's about creating it for yourself. What about you? Are you ready to take the first step toward living life on your own terms? Let Imo's journey inspire you to embrace the freedom and joy that come with independence. Imo's story is one of resilience, love, and unexpected choices. After the tragic loss of her husband, she became the backbone of her family, dedicating decades of her life to raising her daughters. Her diner wasn't just a source of income, it was a place where she poured her heart and soul into every dish, feeding not only her customers but also her dreams for her children's future. Her daughters, Haruka and Yuki, grew up admiring their mother's strength. They often described her as their hero, a woman who had given them everything. And for years, Imo accepted this role without question, believing it was her duty as a mother. But beneath the surface, she felt a quiet longing, a desire to rediscover the woman she had been before life demanded so much from her. When her daughters grew up and started families of their own, they assumed it was their turn to care for their mother. "Mom, come live with us," Haruka said one evening over dinner, her voice filled with love and concern. "You've worked so hard. It's time for you to rest." Yuki quickly chimed in, "Yes, Mom. The kids would love to have you around. You deserve to enjoy life now." Through these small but meaningful steps, Imo transformed her life. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. And in doing so, she taught her daughters an unexpected lesson, that love doesn't always mean staying close or being dependent. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give your family is showing them how to live independently and with purpose. Imo's story challenges us all to rethink what aging can look like. It's not about waiting for others to bring you happiness, it's about creating it for yourself. What about you? Are you ready to take the first step toward living life on your own terms? Let Imo's journey inspire you to embrace the freedom and joy that come with independence. Imo's story is one of resilience, love, and unexpected choices. After the tragic loss of her husband, she became the backbone of her family, dedicating decades of her life to raising her daughters. Her diner wasn't just a source of income, it was a place where she poured her heart and soul into every dish, feeding not only her customers but also her dreams for her children's future. Her daughters, Haruka and Yuki, grew up admiring their mother's strength. They often described her as their hero, a woman who had given them everything. And for years, Imo accepted this role without question, believing it was her duty as a mother. But beneath the surface, she felt a quiet longing, a desire to rediscover the woman she had been before life demanded so much from her. When her daughters grew up and started families of their own, they assumed it was their turn to care for their mother. "Mom, come live with us," Haruka said one evening over dinner, her voice filled with love and concern. "You've worked so hard. It's time for you to rest." Yuki quickly chimed in, "Yes, Mom. The kids would love to have you around. You deserve to enjoy life now." Imo's first step toward reclaiming her life was simple but profound, taking care of her health. After decades of neglecting her own body to focus on her family, she realized that without health, she couldn't enjoy the freedom she longed for. She often quoted the saying, "A healthy outside starts from the inside." To her, this wasn't just about eating well or exercising, it was about cultivating a mindset of self-respect. Imo began her transformation with small, achievable habits. She started walking daily, even though it was challenging at first. Slowly, her stamina improved, and with it came a renewed sense of energy. Her pain subsided, and she began to feel alive again. One pivotal moment came when she joined a yoga class. Initially hesitant, Imo found that yoga not only strengthened her body but also calmed her mind. She shared this revelation with her daughters: "Taking care of my health isn't just about me, it's about making sure I never become a burden to anyone else." Imo's journey reminds us of a quote by Jim Rohn, "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live." Her commitment to health became the foundation for everything else she achieved. Imo knew that growing older often brings fears of loneliness. But instead of seeking constant companionship from her daughters, she focused on building meaningful relationships outside her family. When she joined a volunteer gardening group, she didn't expect it to change her life. But it did. Working alongside people of all ages to plant flowers in a local park gave her a sense of community and purpose. She formed deep connections with people who shared her interests, proving that relationships don't have to be based on obligation, they can be chosen. One day, while gardening, a young boy shyly asked for her help. That simple interaction led to a bond that reminded Imo of the joy of connecting across generations. Her experiences reflect the wisdom of C.S. Lewis: "Friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, 'What? You too? I thought I was the only one.'" Imo's story teaches us that loneliness isn't about being alone, it's about feeling unseen. By opening herself up to new people and experiences, she found connections that enriched her life in unexpected ways. At 68, Imo did something most people would consider impossible. She pursued a childhood dream of learning to play the piano. This wasn't just a pastime, it was her way of reclaiming a part of herself that had been buried under decades of sacrifice. Her journey wasn't easy. Her fingers fumbled on the keys, and progress was slow. But she kept going, fueled by a simple belief: it's never too late to become who you might have been. George Eliot. Over time, Imo's clumsy notes transformed into melodies. She joined a small piano group that performed at nursing homes, bringing joy to others through her music. Playing the piano wasn't just a hobby for her, it was a lifeline. Her passion for music became a symbol of her resilience and creativity. It also inspired her daughters, who marveled at their mother's ability to keep growing and learning, even in her later years. Imo's decision to prioritize her independence didn't just transform her own life, it also profoundly impacted her daughters. Initially, they struggled to understand why she refused to live with them. But as they watched her thrive, they began to see her choice in a new light. Her eldest daughter admitted, "Mom taught us something we never expected, that true love is giving someone the space to grow, not holding them too tightly." Imo's story reflects a quote from the Dalai Lama: "Give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay." By living her truth, Imo left her daughters with a powerful legacy: the courage to live authentically and the wisdom to prioritize what truly matters. Her journey challenges us all to rethink our beliefs about aging, family, and happiness. Are we living for others, or are we truly living for ourselves? Imo's story isn't just about one woman's remarkable journey, it's a challenge to all of us. Her decision to prioritize independence, health, and personal growth serves as a wake-up call to rethink how we approach happiness and aging. If you've spent years putting others first, believing that your fulfillment depends on your family, perhaps it's time to question that mindset. What would your life look like if you took full responsibility for your happiness? Are you actively taking care of your health, or are you waiting for someone else to step in when things go wrong? Are your relationships enriching your life, or are they weighed down by unspoken obligations? Most importantly, when was the last time you pursued something purely because it brought you joy, not because it served a purpose for others? Imo's story reminds us that happiness is a choice, not something handed to us. It's built through small, consistent actions, choosing to walk, to connect, to create, and to live authentically. These aren't grand gestures, they're simple but deliberate choices that, over time, shape a life worth living. Her journey teaches us that aging doesn't have to mean giving up on ourselves. It's an opportunity for rediscovery, to finally prioritize what truly matters. If you've ever felt stuck, waiting for the right moment to focus on yourself, let Imo's story be the reminder you need: it's never too late to start. So, I ask you, what's one step you can take today to create a life of independence and joy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe it's a walk in the park, a phone call to a new friend, or even starting a hobby you've always dreamed of. Whatever it is, remember, your happiness begins with you. Imo's journey toward independence began with a single step, literally. After years of physical labor, her body was in pain, and her spirit felt heavy. She knew she needed to take care of herself, not just for her own sake, but also to ensure she wouldn't become a burden on her daughters. This realization was a turning point. She often reminded herself of the saying, "Your health is your wealth," and decided to make it her priority. Her daily walks became a ritual. At first, she could only manage short distances, her back and knees protesting with every step. But she persisted, finding strength in the small victories. Each lap around the park felt like a triumph, a reminder that she was capable of change. Over time, these walks evolved into something more, a chance to clear her mind, connect with nature, and reflect on her goals. One morning, while stretching after her walk, an elderly woman approached her. "You've got great discipline," the woman said with a smile. "Have you ever tried yoga? It's helped me a lot with my flexibility and energy." Imo hesitated but decided to give it a try. Joining the yoga class was intimidating at first. She worried about keeping up with the others, but she quickly found that the practice was less about perfection and more about progress. Yoga taught her to listen to her body, to be patient with herself, and to celebrate even the smallest improvements. One day, during class, the instructor asked everyone to share what yoga had brought into their lives. Imo's answer was simple but profound: "It's taught me that self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary." Her classmates applauded, inspired by her words. As her physical health improved, Imo began to explore other aspects of her life. She remembered her childhood dream of playing the piano and decided it was time to make it a reality. Enrolling in lessons at 68 felt daunting, but she approached it with the same determination that had carried her through so many challenges. Each practice session was a reminder that growth is possible at any age. But Imo didn't stop there. She also sought to build meaningful relationships outside her family. Joining a volunteer group at a local park gave her a sense of purpose and connection. One day, while planting flowers, a young boy asked her, "Why do you like gardening so much?" She smiled and replied, "Because flowers remind us that beauty takes time to grow." That simple moment became a metaphor for her own life, proof that even in the later stages, there's room for growth and renewal. Through these experiences, Imo discovered a new kind of happiness, one that wasn't tied to her role as a mother or the expectations of others. She often told her daughters, "Independence isn't about being alone. It's about knowing you can take care of yourself, even when others are around." Her journey also changed the way her daughters saw aging. Initially, they struggled to accept her decision to live alone. But as they saw her thriving, taking care of her health, pursuing her passions, and building new friendships, they realized that their mother's happiness didn't depend on proximity. It came from her ability to live authentically and on her own terms. Imo's story challenges all of us to reflect on our own lives. Are we waiting for happiness to come from someone else? Are we holding on to expectations that leave us disappointed and unfulfilled? Or are we ready to take charge of our own joy, just like Imo did? Now, I want to ask you directly, what's stopping you from taking that first step? Maybe it's fear of failure or the belief that it's too late. But Imo's journey proves otherwise. As the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Start small. It could be as simple as going for a walk, calling a friend, or signing up for a class you've always wanted to take. Remember, happiness doesn't require grand gestures. It's built through consistent, intentional actions that align with your values and passions. If Imo could transform her life at 68, what's stopping you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What's one step you can take today to create a more fulfilling life? Maybe you've already started your own journey toward independence and joy. If so, let us know. Your story could inspire someone else to take their first step. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear Imo's story, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Together, let's redefine what it means to live fully, no matter our age.